the other side of it is something I've always wanted to see, which is the holding of, I suppose, what have become either heirlooms or land races in various regions, like you say, that are being destroyed to such a level that it risks, you say, losing whole generations of different cultivars and chemovars. Um, of a rewilding in those areas when eventually, hopefully, touch fucking wood, the war will end around the world and we can look at that and go, well, what were the original Hawaiian strains? Let's go back there. What were the original African strains? Like, here, let's give this shit back
Yeah,
and see what it can renaturalize in its environment, because then it'll open up those branches of different evolution that we haven't really seen within the genetics.
and that's absolutely true. And I haven't traveled as extensively as I could. And I know in a lot of those kind of areas where you would find landrace varieties, they have brought in other varieties as well to help improve the lines. And a lot of people hate that, but you know, it has happened and it does still happen. And actually, you know, a lot of these varieties got to the places they were by human intervention in the first place. So
Mm.
uh, yeah, there's a
But
lot
that's
we
where I
can do,
suppose we
and
get
there's a lot we've got to
that.
be cautious of. But I think, like you say, is and no mention of greenhouse, but anyone who is collecting from these kind of places is making sure that they help benefit the kind of local indigenous populations if borrowing natural resources from them.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's all I really ask of any really company or entity that is doing that. If you, it's a trade, you've got to trade. If you're taking something from that, granted you are helping champion in that name and that region, as it were, and whatever else. But it's yeah, it often. I mean, I think actually this is from a greenhouse documentary. I think it's like two point something million people at the lowest end of economics around the world still rely on cannabis as their only cash crop.
Yeah, and a lot of those we work with some teams in South Africa where we have a bit of a presence, and actually the guy from Simon Strain Hunter we're quite closely with, who works with a lot of the tribes people in various places in South Africa, and he's working with some you know, very poor communities that aren't necessarily seeing the benefit of changes to the law in South Africa, and actually, you know, when these legal changes come that a lot of people have fought for, they're not always the best for a lot of the people that have been operating on a legacy basis, and I think that's really sad and a massive missed opportunity personally.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I don't think this of just troll. I champion, obviously, British growers, British cannabis culture. I mean, if you look, you say, like further afield where there aren't other options, there aren't other real choices. Cannabis is, I grow cannabis because my granddad grew cannabis, his granddad grew cannabis. This is what we have on the land. This is the resource that we have. This is our home, our ancestral lands. I'd want that to be like wine almost. That's where I see the future of cannabis
$100%.
is certain regions are championed as yes, you may be able to try and replicate that in a grow room wherever, but there'll still be that premium and that thing on that because you're paying for their generations of learning and tradition and heritage, you know?
Yeah, 100%. We've always, from day one, as our kind of companies, as an organization, really favored the wine model. And actually, we had a wine business at one stage. But for me, it is by far the most interesting model that involves, or can involve easier legacy growers, as well as people coming in from new walks of life, encouraged by changes in the law, but that actually also allow people who know what they're doing to show off their real passion in their product and to really get it noticed. But also, you know, if that was to operate on an international level as well, personally, I think it would be a really exciting market where, you know, you can bring in Moroccan hashes or charis from you know, wherever you want to get it from, and those regions start being properly recognized and able to trade legally. Albeit, you know, you need to bring in quality standards and the like, and I don't think anyone would be afraid of that, although as long as they're not too ridiculous and too onerous.
I suppose if it was based on the quality of the product rather than what we're seeing with corporate legalization around the world, based on artificial regulations and restrictions. So, you need to meet this rule, this rule, this rule that has nothing to do with the product. Well, that's what we're seeing with EU GMP and various other things within the prescription spaces. It's the products themselves are very lightly regulated per the product. But once you get into the packaging and selling it in that market in Schedule 2, it tapers to a point where, oh, your facility you need X amount of money to hold it in your facility. You need X amount to be able to distribute it. And you just see what I'm saying, like that. That
Yeah.
startup capital and cost is then artificially restrictive, where again, I want to see that what I was kind of hoping Thailand would do, but unfortunately there's a lot of external pressures and forces that, as you say, instead of it
I
championing
think
kind of
while
the
there's still a kind of prohibition in the US, it won't open up fully. That's for to the full potential. I understand to a level. Obviously, medical needs to be a lot cleaner and everything else than recreational. But actually, we want to try and achieve higher standards in everything. But finding ways to do that, like you say, don't keep everybody else out who doesn't have
I think
a
it
million or
should,
whatever you need to set up a facility in the UK.
yeah, I think if we look at the regulation of crops, so the thing of like class, like a class one, class two, I don't know if we have class three of like onions, apples, tomatoes. Do you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
we grade them, and there's obviously at the production side of there's certain pesticides, certain things that can't then go into it at this level. And there's then randomized testing and various other regulations, and there's still manipulations of the system at any large industry. But the general idea is obviously to minimize the potential exposure. Obviously, I mean, phosphates. We'll not go into that. But my point being that obviously at that scale of commercial industry, whereas then Dave down in his allotment, he could grow enough onions to pass out to 20 families.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
exactly, and they do in
but
farmers markets and the
it's then
like.
his level. But then he could also take that crop, go to it, like you said, a market, and have a grade classified to it with a
Yeah,
basic, like a nerd with a clipboard. It's not all this legal and all the huge amount of bolsterous, bloated, sorry, industry that they've created attached to this. It could literally
yeah,
be here's an international standards of cannabis. Are you grade one, grade two, grade three? And like you said, that would then brings everybody up because nobody would want to, if they're wanting good money, you then have to produce a good product. And if everybody knows what a good product is,
exactly.
the same would be good cannabis is good cannabis wherever you are in the world. You may have a different preference in terms of the experience of it due to like the VSCs, the flavonoids, terpenes, those kind of compounds. But the plant itself is still the plant. But like I say, I
100%.
want to travel to regions like I was saying about to Thailand and have the best Thai stick. Have the best of like what was your original, what was the I'm thinking the Thai 74, what the hell was that? Going way back into my own knowledge here. But yeah, this anyway, some of like the really old Thai stuff that ended up getting bred into like what became blue cheese and things like that. Because again, with the legacy and heirlooms of cultivars, where yeah, we took land races from other areas and they've naturalized, they've escaped, they've wilded, and they've had different genomic expressions in themselves to then become completely different plants effectively.
Yeah.
And now as we like I said, we're collecting them back. I want to see what that region produces. I don't want to see cookies produced in that region. No offense to cookies, it was just what came to mind. But then that's what I mean. Is instead of it, those areas being championing that thing, it's I don't want it to be a McDonald's. Cannabis shouldn't be McDonald's. It can be
Yeah,
and
and
it
there
will
will be a
be.
little bit that needs to play out as there's suddenly in the genetic space, there's quite, and I mean, you'll see this in dispensaries anywhere, is, one person's Jack Herrera or White Widow in one dispensary is quite significantly different to another dispensary. And as much as regulation terrifies us, I do think there are areas where it will bring good things actually for the consumer in the end. We try as much as possible to kind of self-regulate. But yeah, there are suddenly some areas where I think it'll be interesting seeing the right regulations come in, if hopefully the right regulations do come in.